Welcome to the Fantasy Football Anonymous show, the show where all the analysis is made up and the picks don't matter. Also brought to you by your two favorite sponsors, No One and Nothing. I'm Joe Osno here with Matt Schroeder and Rob Shaw, here to talk about some Week 10 in the NFL, give you some fantasy advice, hopefully, and Week 9. Some great games there, Schroeder, right?
You want to talk about bad football. Like, this is bad football all around. There's a lot of blowouts by teams. I guess we're starting to see who the really good teams are and who the mediocre teams. But for so many other weeks, it had been close games and underdogs had been winning. But this is the week where it's just like blowout city. And it was just a lot of bad football, where teams weren't being competitive, where teams looked bad. Even some of the teams that won big didn't look that great. And, fantasy-wise, it was a very low-scoring week.
Yeah, it was really low scoring. The quality of football just wasn't that good, and some of the star players just really didn't show up this week. So it was a rough week for fantasy. A little unpredictable. Some guys, lesser known guys had big weeks. So daily fantasy, you were looking pretty good, but you probably had a star who didn't perform. So it was really a tough week all around, I'd say.
Yeah, my Rams super stack did okay in DFS. didn't wind up as good as it started out, but definitely a weird week.
I think we can call Week 9 the week of fights. We had Mike Evans get into a fight. We had AJ Green get into a fight. We had Carlos Hyde get into a fight. Two of them got ejected. Mike Evans should have gotten ejected, and now he's going to pay for it this week since he's suspended. But that kind of encapsulates what the entire week was about. It was really bad, so people wanted to get into fights. Yeah, but Joe, you did just mention the Rams. Let's go talk about that game a little bit. The Rams absolutely demolished the Giants. Now, we have already known that the Rams offense last year was really bad. This year, it has been tops in the NFL in terms of points per game. I think all of us have agreed that the Rams offense was going to continue to do well as the year went on. But Joe, is this 51 points that they scored? Are they going to be hitting close to 30 a game continuing on this season, or is this just an effect of playing the hapless Giants?
Well, a lot of that 51-point total is playing the hapless Giants. They were completely checked out this entire game, giving up a long touchdown to Robert Woods on a short slant where nobody made any effort to tackle him. Then the like 2 plays later for the Rams get a 67-yard touchdown to Sammy Watkins. I mean, just completely biting on the play action, and then bad defense all around.
That play action was kind of one of those plays you do in your backyard and everybody falls for it. But yeah, I think their offense is for real, though. I think they've showed it. They have a great balance between the run and the pass. I think that's really making things easy for Jared Goff. And they look good. Who would have thought? I was not expecting that before the season. I thought maybe they could get a little better with the additions, but I didn't think it would click this quickly. It's quite incredible what the Rams are already able to do under first-year coach. So
that's true. And I like to equate it. They just have too many weapons. Too bad the Bills don't have those type of weapons, or else they'd be a juggernaut.
If you take just all these receivers who leave Buffalo, usually have a lot of success. So just something to look at in the future.
Well, I think the most prominent thing that's happening is the Jeff Fisher effect. He leaves and the team gets a lot better because Jeff Fisher just was not a good coach. All right. Next game that we're going to jump into. Let's go ahead and jump into the Eagles-Broncos. Another just absolute demolishing. Broncos are definitely better than the Giants, but the Eagles still just completely dominated that defense. Rob, Carson Wentz had 4 touchdowns against the Broncos. What I think is probably the best secondary in the game. Is this guy top 3 quarterback rest of season?
I think he's the top quarterback for the rest of the season. I benched him in my league, granted for Drew Brees, and it worked out pretty good for me. But Yeah, he's proven time and time again. He's the real deal. This team is the real deal, even against a great Broncos defense. Shorter, I might have to disagree with you on that whole Broncos better than the Giants. The Broncos have looked terrible, and they lost to the Giants, but they just can't figure out their quarterback situation. It's a mess there in Denver, and I don't think they're going to turn this around whatsoever. But the Eagles, going into this bye week, they've got to be smiling right now. Not much that can stop them right now. I think they're definitely headed for the playoffs. We'll see how they do once they get there. Wentz in his first playoffs could be a little, not having the experience could be a little rough, but they got a great shot this year. I really like the Eagles.
The Eagles are really good. I might have to say that the Broncos probably are better than the Giants. That defense at least represents one competent unit that takes the field for them every game. And Carson Wentz. Yeah, he's the top 3 guy rest of the season. I probably like Russell Wilson a little bit more than him, but for the rest of the year. But that's about it. He's been great, and he's probably going to continue to be great.
Yeah, I think you have to start almost all of his weapons too. Alshon Jeffrey caught 2 touchdowns. Zach Ertz actually missed this game with an injury, late surprise inactive. Trey Burton stepped up, got a touchdown in his place. But I mean, these are, and Jay Ajayi had a long run, amazingly, on his limited carries. And even, Corey Clement got into the action. So there's a lot of Eagles that you can actually play with confidence moving into the future. Next game we're going to jump into is the Falcons-Panthers game. Joe, I know you're probably as excited as I was about the score. You got close at the end, probably closer than it should have been, but the Panthers prevailed. On the other side, the Atlanta Falcons, I'm sure you saw the long bomb that Julio Jones thankfully dropped. But I've always kind of been on board of, the Falcons offense. It's going to take a little bit, but they're going to finally rebound. I'm not thinking that's the case anymore. Are they actually ever going to be able to get in the groove and get back to at least somewhat where they were last season?
They can probably be better than they have been, but I don't think we're going to see anything close to what we saw in 2015. There's going to be value in that offense because they do have great playmakers, but from week to week, you're not really sure who it's going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think it's going to get back to what it was this year. It could get a little better, but I think this offense is going to take some time. It takes time to put these new systems in and get better. So if I were people out there playing in dynasty leagues, this could be a good time to target Julio Jones. Even though he's been having a decent year, but not that, top 5, top 10 guy. This could be a key moment if you're looking like you're on the outs this season. To trade for him, people might, lose confidence in him. I think he's going to bounce back next year. But I think we're going to see a lot of the same this year. It's going to be kind of in the not much progress there. They'll have some moments. Julio Jones will have some good games. He'll have some less good games. But, I don't think it's going to return to that form. I not at least for another year, if even that.
Yeah, based off where you drafted them, I'm probably bringing every single player on the Falcons down a tier. Julio Jones is expected to be a high-end wide receiver 1. He's probably more low-end wide receiver 1. Freeman, running back low-end, running back 1. Coleman, he's probably flex play if that. And so where you drafted him, you probably just move him down a tier. And I'm guessing, the production that you're going to be getting most weeks. All right, the last game that I wanted to go over is the Cowboys took it to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I want to stay on the Chiefs side because, number one, Kareem Hunt did not get a lot of snaps. But number two, this offense recently has not looked nearly as good as they did at the beginning of the season. Rob, are the Chiefs going to bounce back after this bye week, or is this a regression to the mean that we should be expecting the rest of the year?
I think this might be a regression to the me. Alex Smith kind of reverting a little bit more to what we know. But I can't say that with 100%. I think that they have a lot of special players. I think Kareem Hunt, while his production's gone down, I think there's still a lot of talent there. And Tyreek Hill's really emerged this season, especially in fantasy football. So, and of course, Kelsey, we know he's been good. So I don't want to just bail on this offense. I think it's a good offense, but I think the first few games of the season were a bit of an outlier, where they were just, the number one offense. And I just don't think that's going to be sustainable from what we know historically, but I still like them to be a top 10 offense, by the end of the year. I don't know. That's a kind of an in-between there. I would temper my expectations about Kansas City, but still a lot of fantasy points there that you got to look at every week and consider.
Yeah, I guess the Rams and the Chiefs couldn't be the top two offenses for the entirety of the season. One of them had to be like, okay, let's get real here and realize who we are. But yeah, I think they'll be fine, if not quite as explosive as they were over the first half of the year.
Okay, before we move on to this week's game, I do have a question. Since Kareem Hunt only did see 54% of snaps, and I've heard some talk about what is Kareem Hunt going to be doing the rest of the year, and I still like the rest of the year, his potential. I think he's still going to be a very solid running back. But a guy that has just been dominating recently, Alvin Kamara. So I'm going to go ahead and ask both of you. Joe, Alvin Kamara or Kareem Hunt rest of the year?
Whew.
The fact that we're talking about this and actually thinking about this, that shows how far Kamara has gone up and how far Kareem Hunt has gone down.
I would say Hunt, just because he does project to have a larger share of the touches in that backfield going forward. But in Dynasty, I would probably take Kamara for the rest of their careers. They're obviously both great, and I unfortunately didn't draft either one this year, so I'm on the outside looking in. But it's going to be close because Kamara has proven he's a special player.
You and me both, Joe. I stayed away from him, and I really wish I drafted them. I'm going with Hunt as well. I just think Mark Ingram is still too relevant and important to the Saints offense. So a few of those touchdowns could go Mark Ingram's way, taking Kamara's value down a little bit. I just think Hunt's going to have more opportunities.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into this week's slate of games. Our first game is Thursday, as always. It's going to be a rough one, guys. The Seattle Seahawks, fresh off their loss to the Washington Redskins in a very ugly game, are going against the Arizona Cardinals without their top running back and without their top quarterback, who are out for the year. So, Rob, let's go ahead and start with you. Who do you like in this game, and what are the fantasy implications?
I like the Seahawks in this game. Seahawks to bounce back. Very rarely do they lose 2 straight games. And since Pete Carroll's been there, since Russell Wilson's been there, I just think this screams the perfect comeback game for them. Looking at the fantasy implications, I like Russell Wilson, even though it was a tough game last week, still put up a good fantasy, a lot of fantasy points, respectable week. And you got to start him every week. As far as the running back situation, I think we say it every week. I just don't feel good about any of the running backs from week to week. And as far as the Cardinals side of the ball, I mean, they're going up against a defense that looked very good against Washington, even though they ended up losing the game in the end. So I don't know how I feel. You might do Peterson if you really don't have a lot of options, but it's not the greatest matchup. This isn't the great Seahawks defense of old, but it's still a good defense. you got to be careful if you're thinking about starting Peterson. I just don't feel good about the receivers. Yeah, and Stanton playing. It's just something I kind of want to just stay away from this game other than Russell Wilson. It's just going to be an ugly game. I see this one coming down. There'll be turnovers, your typical Thursday game. And, yeah, I'm kind of staying away from this one, guys. What are y'all thinking about that?
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are probably going to have a pretty convincing win here. Wilson and Baldwin are the only obvious starters, but in a week where there's really no great tight end where a lot of the great tight end options are off the board because of bye weeks. I mean, Graham's playable, and yeah, the line looked better, I thought, with the addition of Dwayne Brown for Seattle, but until we see I'm willing to miss the first good game from a Seattle running back, if that's the case. And yeah, for Peterson's value, he's getting so many carries that he's fine as a flex or RB2 this week, I'd say. And Larry Fitzgerald, you can always play him. Well, if you don't have better options, and I know a lot of people don't, I'm one of them. So, but yeah, I think the Seahawks roll here on the road.
Yeah, I'm picking Seahawks as well. I think Larry Fitzgerald is a flex option. He has had a little bit of success against Seattle, and he does line up in the slot, so he usually misses one of the better cornerbacks that Seattle has. But Adrian Peterson, that's where I think the biggest question mark came in, because he had a solid game against the 49ers. Again, that is the 49ers, though, but he had over 30 carries, 150 yards. It really depends on the game script and how the game goes down. If Seattle gets up big early, then Peterson is going to be, get 2 to 4 fantasy points, and he's going to look like a bust. If they can keep it low scoring and keep Seattle off the board, we could see a pretty heavy workload with Adrian Peterson. Where he could get into pretty running back 2 if he gets in the end zone, running back 1 type of value. I kind of predict the negative game script. So we'll see a little bit more Andre Ellington than Peterson this game, as they're going to have to try to pass to catch up. So I like Peterson as more a low-end RB2 flex this week. But I know some people that are very high on him just because they think the workload's going to be there. Next game we got is this is a rough one, guys. Packers at the Bears. Packers just got completely dominated by the Detroit Lions in almost every phase of the game. Final score was a lot closer than the game actually was. And the Chicago Bears with Mitch Trubisky, who were just probably going to run the entire game. Joe, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, that Lions-Packers game, the Lions didn't punt. I didn't know that was possible for the Detroit Lions. They usually have at least 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 drives that stall for no reason because they can't run the ball effectively. But yeah, the Packers defense couldn't get any pressure on Matthew Stafford, and I think the Bears offensive line is going to maul here too. We're going to see a ton of Jordan Howard, and yeah, two teams that want to run the ball a lot, I think. Yeah, there's no value in the Bears passing game. I don't really think I need to talk about that. But for the Packers, I don't know how much value there is in their passing game either. Brett Hundley is a complete train wreck back there, holding the ball too long, getting sacked, not staying in the pocket for more than 2 seconds, immediately trying to roll out, and it's just not working for him. You might be forced to play Jordy Nelson or Devontae Adams. I know some teams just don't have better options, but you're kind of hoping to luck into a touchdown with those guys because there's really nothing there. And Aaron Jones really couldn't get anything going against Detroit's run defense either. And so we saw Ty Montgomery come in the second half and be more effective. So I'll be looking to see who leads the backfield there, if it's more of a quagmire going forward. I think Jones will still have the first opportunity for carries, and maybe he gets something going. But none of the guys have a ton of appeal for Green Bay.
Yeah,
I'll take the Packers to win at home. No, not the Packers to win. The Bears to win at home.
I was like, dang, Joe, that's bold.
I'll take the Packers to win at home on the road in Chicago.
I'm going
That is
with the
bold.
Bears. Joe, you said that they're going to run Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard's had a lot of success, especially against bad defenses. I think they're going to run all over him. Jordan Howard's going to have a huge week. And it's I mean, if you have to start Nelson or Adams, I feel bad for you. I have to start them in my leagues. It's a deeper extra flex league, so kind of have to. But if you have other options, I would. I know the talent's there; they're great receivers. I would bail if you have some good matchups for maybe lesser talent, better situation. But that being said, yeah, I think the Bears are going to run this and slowly eat away at them. It's not going to be a lot of passing in this game. Jordan Howard, lots of it.
Okay. You guys said lesser talent, or Rob, you said lesser talent. So I'm going to throw you a question here. Who would you rather have, Jordy Nelson or Robbie Anderson this week?
This week, Robbie Anderson.
Joe?
Hands down. It's a favorable matchup. He's looking really good. That's how, like, my confidence in Hundley is really low right now. I feel like you're kind of gambling. And Josh McCown, he, as far as fantasy football goes, he's been top 10 this year. So he's getting it done from that standpoint. A little nervous about which receiver is going to be. I took Jermaine Kearse this year, and I guessed wrong. So, which one, I don't know, but it's close. But I would probably go with Robbie Anderson this week.
I'd have to do the same. I think he's actually scored more points on the season. He's a wide receiver too right now. I feel dirty saying it, but I'm going to go with the Jets receiver, Robbie Anderson.
All right, I'll still keep Jordy Nelson in the spot over Robbie Anderson for this week, but I'm picking the Bears to win this game. I love Jordan Howard this week. He could get close to 30, 35 carries in a game that probably is going to be pretty low scoring, and just allow Jordan Howard to just run crazy. Next game we got is the Browns at the Lions. The Browns continue to be winless, as they usually are, and the Lions just came off a pretty big beating of the Green Bay Packers. I'm obviously picking the Lions to win this game at home. I love Matthew Stafford this week. I think he'll be a great play in fantasy. This is pretty much easy fantasy analysis. Start most of your Lions if you can. Besides probably Eric Ebron, because he just always disappoints. If you had to start a tight end, I'm actually going to tell you to start Darren Fells, even though this is a fantastic matchup against the Cleveland Browns. But I think this is going to be pretty out-of-hand game. Even on short rest, I think the Lions are just going to sweep the floor with the Browns, whose quarterback situation is completely up in the air. If you have Isaiah Crowell, it was nice that he scored the week before the bye. But I feel this is going to be more of a Duke Johnson type game where Duke Johnson could be a decent play on the Browns side. Besides that, Isaiah Crowell is probably going to be a desperation flex. And Marvin Jones has really started to emerge lately with some very big games. I think you can start him as a wide receiver two with confidence, who could put up some wide receiver one numbers.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I really have nothing else to add. Start your Lions and stay away from the Browns. I do like Duke Johnson. That was a good take. Crowell, don't fall for it. You're just going to be sick if you go with that. So,
in addition to the fact that Crowell's been a pretty huge disappointment most of the season, that Lions run defense is tough, as they've proven. So, yeah, I wanted to pick, I was looking for a sneaky tight end play on the weekend. I usually pick on the Browns and Giants for that, and I'm like, Eric Ebron, no, not this week, not ever.
All right, next game we got is Steelers at the Colts. Again, we're having a lot of these mismatches this week, it seems like, where we'll have one pretty good team against one pretty bad team. The Colts just won Rob last week, but the Steelers so far have been the much better team. But who do you like?
Yeah, the Steelers. Impressive showing from the Colts. But, no Deshaun Watson. It kind of changes things a lot, significantly. So I'm going with the Steelers. They're finally back to that, quality defense. Is clicking. Smith-Schuster looked great. Obviously, they have Antonio Brown. I think those are both great plays this week. And I like Le'Veon Bell, and I like Ben Roethlisberger a little bit, even though they are more of a running team. I think they have a very good matchup against the Colts defense. Colts looked good last week, but again, Tom Savage, need I say more? A lot of teams can look good against him. So on the other side of the ball, T.Y. Hilton, I mean, he always has a chance to get a long bomb and to score. He's currently the number 4 wide receiver, and some days you don't even think it because he puts up not so good numbers, but he's just he gets so many targets, catches, deep balls. You have to play him every week. After that, I'm kind of iffy on the running back against this defense. I'd stay away. So I'm going with the Steelers to win this one, and quite easily.
I like it, Rob. I'm going to have to pick the Steelers too. I agree with your take on Big Ben being a fairly decent streamer this week against that Colts secondary that's kind of vulnerable. And I don't know what to make of the Colts backfield. It's pretty even timeshare between Marlon Mack and Frank Gore until we see one of them, dominate the carries. It's it's a wait and see. And Jack Doyle is also top 10 at his position. He's very playable here too, I'd say. And that's about it. What do you think, Schroeder?
Yeah, I'm picking the Steelers. You're going to be starting almost all your Steelers. Smith-Schuster, I think, can be a viable flex this week. On the Colts side, T.Y. Hilton finally had a big game, but you're probably going to want to keep the hype down on him because this is a very tough defense. I mean, if you play him, you're hoping for a Hail Mary that he just catches and takes the house, or potentially just they target him so much that he can have a good fantasy day value-wise. But you're not going to be starting any of these Colts with confidence. Picking the Steelers in a pretty big, dominating win against the Colts.
Schroeder, I think T.Y. Hilton's entire career is like that.
Well,
is he going to get the big play or isn't he? He's very frustrating in fantasy football.
He usually gets the big play against bad defenses. Like against Houston, I liked him a lot as a starter. This week against the Steelers, not so much. They have a good defenses, and it's very, very sketchy whenever he faces good defenses to actually have a big game.
I feel like he scored most of his career touchdowns against Houston. It seems like. I know he said he had 3 one game a few years back.
Maybe it's just
crazy.
Kryptonite.
He doesn't like Houston.
Next game we got up is one of the better ones. I guess the first decent game that we have so far. Joe, we got the San Diego Chargers straight off a bye against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are without Leonard Fournette. What happened there?
Yeah, really nice surprise for those of us who woke up at 12:50 and had to set their fantasy lineups. But yeah, hopefully if you were a Fournette owner, you had a chance to get in Chris Ivory at the last second. But yeah, I like Jacksonville in this game. They've played such great defense, and they're at home. They have a great running attack. They seem like they can just hold the ball and control the clock in these games. Obviously, I love Fournette here. I'm a little bit down on all the Chargers. So, but except for Melvin Gordon, I think he's in a nice spot. But it's going to be a tough out for Phillip Rivers in the San Diego passing game. Obviously, you're playing Keenan Allen here, and Hunter Henry's a fine play. And for the Jacksonville passing game, you can throw in Marquise Lee if you're desperate, but I'd look elsewhere because you really don't know from week to week who's going to have value, if anyone. And they were serious when they said they wanted to throw the ball 0 times a game. We all kind of laughed at it, but no, they were dead serious about it. So I think you're more likely to find value in the backup running backs than the receivers in some weeks.
Yeah, Jacksonville in this one, another easy pick. I like you said, Gordon, good game for him, and yeah, I mean Marquise Lee maybe, but I feel like that was just a good game for him last week, and probably go back down to the norm. But yeah, start the running backs. Not much else to say. Jacksonville for the win.
I'm going San Diego Chargers for the win. They've been playing a lot better recently. They were actually even competitive, relatively competitive in a game against the Patriots. The Jags are a little bit too high on themselves, I think, right now, though they're going to have a little bit of a surprise on a Chargers team that has started to play better as of late. I actually do like Keenan Allen quite a bit. He's a slot receiver, so he's not going to be going up against Jalen Ramsey, who is just absolutely merciless against usually teams' number 1 receivers. But he's probably going to be avoiding that matchup, so I like him a lot. And I like Melvin Gordon in this Chargers offense to do just enough against the Jacksonville Jaguars to actually win this game. You probably are going to be looking for better options than Phillip Rivers. But I think Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, and obviously Melvin Gordon are fine plays. On the Jacksonville side, Leonard Fournette did not play last game. It was a team infraction. He will be playing this game unless he continues to do something stupid, which I don't think anyone is expecting. So you're starting Leonard Fournette, and you're feeling pretty confident about that. But I will be picking the San Diego Chargers in my upset of the week. Next game we got. Rob, I'm going to let you cover this one because it's your team. And this is one of the other better games of the week. We got the New Orleans Saints, run first New Orleans Saints, running in defense New Orleans Saints against the Buffalo Bills.
My Bills, man, they sucked last week. So I need to, help them out and pick against them. So I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. But for real, I do think the Saints will win this game. But I think this is going to be one of the best games of the week. Buffalo at home has played significantly better, undefeated at home, 4-0. 1-3 on the road, so they're just a different team on the road. I think the short week they came out really bad. The Jets took it to them; they did a great job, but I don't think this was the best we've seen from Buffalo. So I think this could be a really good game, competitive. But I just think the Saints offense is clicking. That run first offense, and the Jets were able to run on Buffalo, so I think they'll wear them down. They're playing pretty good defense too. The defense has gotten much better since previous years. I do think Buffalo will score in game, but eventually they're just going to run out of gas, and they'll be playing catch up with Drew Brees and company. So fantasy wise, I like Ingram. I like Kamara. I like I like Drew Brees and some of the receivers. Still slightly banged up secondary Buffalo. For Buffalo, McCoy had a bad week, but I like him to bounce back. I like for the Bills' offensive line to fix some of their mistakes and just go. I wouldn't really play any of them because Tyrod Taylor really spread the ball out a lot. We'll have Benjamin playing, so don't really know who's going to be seeing a lot of targets. I think they're going to try to run, establish that. And Taylor would be a decent start as well. I think he gets his points after a big week in garbage time. So Schroeder, about the Bills losing to the Jets. Maybe you'll be right about this pick.
Well, I've been picking the Bills pretty correctly. I picked them to lose against the Bengals, and I picked them to win the next week, and then to lose. So, Rob, I'm picking them to win this week against the New Orleans Saints. So let's see if I can make this four wins in a row for my picks for the Bills or against the Bills. They're at home. They're a much better team at home. They have a little bit longer time to rest. They're going to get LaShawn McCoy a lot more involved this week. I love him as a play. And I like Tyrod Taylor quite a bit too. One of the things about Tyrod Taylor is he just doesn't turn the ball over a lot. And that's a huge positive, I guess, especially against the Saints team that has really started to win a lot of games by forcing the turnovers recently. So as long as the Bills can stop from doing a special teams or offensive mistake, I actually like them to win this game and the defense to do just enough to shut down or stop Drew Brees and the running game to win, a 24-21 type of matchup.
It's funny. Both these teams really rely on turnovers, so it'd be interesting to see who caves in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you stole my hot take there, Schroeder. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills.
All right.
I think we do see a ton of LaShawn McCoy. I think all the running backs who play in this game are great plays.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I'm most interested to see is if Charles does play this week, because that would be a huge boon to Tyrod Taylor if he's able to be out there. And I'm also interested to see how Kelvin Benjamin looks in his first game as a Bill. If there could be some nice value there for him, but we don't know yet.
The Bills just have too many weapons, guys. Too many weapons to stop.
They have, like, looking at it with Clay coming back, Benjamin, they actually have a decent receiving core now. Zay Jones looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Jordan Matthews getting healthy. Maybe they can. Maybe they'll become a actual top 5 or top 10 offense. I'm not going to say top 5 yet, but maybe a top 10. If they all start getting
top
into gear.
Top 1 offense.
I'm not going to say that.
They were top 10 last year. Most people don't know that.
All right, next game up is another barn burner. The New York Jets at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jets coming off an impressive win against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football. Guys, Josh McCown looks good. And this isn't just where he's putting up some points against bad defenses. He's actually looked good against some pretty decent defenses as well. He's a guy who I actually love in this matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that has just been leaking to every single offensive player that they have faced. Besides that, the Buccaneers are going to be without Jameis Winston, who is out with a shoulder injury for the next couple weeks, as well as Mike Evans, who has been suspended. Also, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but Doug Martin appeared to actually get benched last game as he didn't come in after about halfway through the third quarter. So I'm going to be picking the Jets. I like Robbie Anderson, as I had mentioned earlier, in the debate against him, Jordy. I do like Robbie Anderson. I'm playing him. I like Matt Forte a lot in this game. I like Josh McCown. On the Buccaneers side, I'm probably I guess you can start the tight end, but other than that, it's going to be Cameron Brate. Other than that, I'm not sure you really want to start anyone because you're kind of afraid of Doug Martin, starting to split time since he got benched. But I'm picking the Jets to win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as their season continues to fall apart quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Doug Martin. I think he's still the most talented player there, so I'm not really worried about him splitting time going forward. I am worried about the Bucs offense being terrible for him and him not being able to get a ton going. Yeah, I agree. I'll take the Jets on the road. Their passing offense has been great. Safarian Jenkins is a good play here too. I think he was robbed of a touchdown last week, in my personal opinion.
You would have won that game against
Schroeder
me.
A win.
You would have won that game if you had gotten that touchdown, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would have. But all that aside, the Jets have been far better than any of us could have predicted before the season, and there's a lot more fantasy value than anyone could have foreseen, I believe. And yeah, I like them to continue to keep it up this week.
Well, guys, you realize this is going to be the Ryan Fitzpatrick revenge game.
Yeah, and Josh McCown revenge game too.
Yeah,
that's right. So I'm going with
double revenge game.
I'm with you, Schroeder. I think this is a bad week for Doug Martin, even if he is the guy, with Mike Evans out, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think they're just going to load the box this game. I just see this as being an ugly game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially without Winston and Evans. So, yeah, Jets have played very well. They're good. They're pretty. They're okay, but they still got a lot of work to do. But they are way better than I thought they were going to be. Awful this year, and they're looking decent. So, kudos to them.
Yeah, before we move on, a little bit of very deep guy, Charles Sims. If you have to start someone and you're really bad, like by injuries and running backs, I think Charles Sims potentially could have a nice game here just with the Doug Martin controversy and probably them being down a decent amount. So he's probably a guy you can pick up on the waiver wire. And if you have a lot of buys or injuries, he's a guy that you might be able to get some production from this game. Next game we got is the Vikings at the Redskins. Joe, Vikings actually have one of the best records in the NFC and are leading the NFC North, but the Redskins are coming off a pretty big win against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. So who do you like this game?
I'm going to go with the Washington Redskins this game. I think that defense has played a lot better recently. They're finally getting healthy. And honestly, I think the Minnesota Vikings are due for a bit of a letdown. They're very depleted on the offensive side. It does help them that they've had Stephon Diggs back, and he's had time to get right after his groin injury. For fantasy, I think you can start both Vikings receivers, but obviously they are facing a pretty good secondary. And for the Redskins, I'm not sure that there's a ton of players I like on that offense, but they always manage to get it done. And I think you can start a Vernon Davis here if Jordan Reed doesn't play. And if Jordan Reed does play, you can throw him in there and pray he doesn't re-aggravate his injury, which is a very likely possibility, I would say. But I'm taking the Redskins to play good defense at home and bring the technical upset over the Minnesota Vikings.
Joe, I'm going to agree with you on that. I think this game's going to be ugly. A lot of good defense on both sides of the ball. And as far as and I like them at home coming off a big win. I think the Washington Redskins, I was really high on them this season, and they've had their struggles. But I think the talent is still there. I think they can come out with the win. Part of me does just think the Vikings are due for a setback. That could be a little bit of it in there. But as far as fantasy goes, I kind of don't want to start anyone in this. But if you have Thielen and you have Diggs, you kind of have to force there, unless you really have better options. But yeah, Vernon Davis is a good pick too, Joe, and good God, Jordan Reed's just a headache. So if you're a Jordan Reed owner, you might be better off if he just doesn't play it, and that way you're not fooled into thinking that you have something. But I think this game is going to be very close. I think the Redskins come out of it by a field goal.
Yeah, I feel like Jordan Reed is the king of being surprisingly active. You throw him in and he plays like one snap and then re-aggravates the injury and he's gone. He's the king of that.
Yep, he is. Well, guys, this is going to be the highest scoring game of the week. Vikings at Redskins. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of offense. I love all your fantasy. I'm just kidding here. But I will be picking the Vikings in this game. This is probably going to be a low-scoring game. I do like Stephon Diggs to have a nice game, finally back from a bye week, finally probably free of his injury. I think he could be a good play. You're obviously going to be starting Jerick McKinnon. He's an every-week start now. On the Redskins side, I'm still a little bit worried just because this is a good defense, and the Redskins' O-line is still really banged up. I do not like Robert Kelly. Vernon Davis, I think, could be a good play. I'm benching Kirk Cousins, though, if I have other options. And You're probably starting Chris Thompson too. Between Vernon Davis, Chris Thompson, those are the only two skins that I'm thinking about starting on the Vikings side. Probably McKinnon, Thielen, and Diggs are the only three guys that I'm thinking about seeing or starting. But this is probably going to be a pretty low-scoring game. But I'm going to go ahead and take the Vikings on the road. Next game up, we have the Bengals at the Titans. Rob, the Bengals. We looked like they were going to be without AJ Green for a little bit, but it looks like, strangely, somehow, by a miracle, he's actually not going to get suspended, even though he threw a guy down, choke slammed him, and punched him in the face a couple times. Actually, he punched him in the mask. Not really a smart thing to do. On the other side of the ball, Titans, they did pull out a win against the Baltimore Ravens, but DeMarco Murray, as he loves to do, continues to get hurt. Who do you like in this game?
I like the Titans to win this game. And I do not like DeMarco Murray. He's just been one of the biggest flops this season. Glad I don't own him in any leagues. I bailed on him for Zeke Elliott early in the season. The Titans have been putting together some good football, and yeah, I know it was against Baltimore, but Baltimore has their moments this season. I think they've been very, opposite ends of the spectrum from week to week. But they had a nice week. As far as the Bengals go, I like AJ Green in this game. I like Joe Mixon, and we've been talking about him every week, and hasn't had his big breakout week yet, but he's getting more opportunities. But yeah, I just don't like what I'm seeing from Cincinnati right now. Even other than Green, I'm not really starting a whole lot of these guys with confidence. Maybe Dalton as a flyer if you're really desperate. Defense isn't that great. But yeah, I'm going with Tennessee on this one.
I'll take the Bengals on the road. I'm not really two teams I feel that great about. Neither one has really played that well recently. Marcus Mariota hasn't really turned the corner like the way we thought he would. He's been limited with a hamstring injury, as has DeMarco Murray, who has been a big disappointment this year, and so is the Tennessee line. Honestly, they just haven't mauled like we thought they were going to, and for the Titans pass catchers, who knows week to week? Sometimes it's Eric Decker, sometimes it's Rashard Matthews. I think Corey Davis will establish himself towards the end of the season as the number one target there. But he's another guy whose first good game I'm willing to miss. I just stash him. For the Bengals, obviously you said it, Rob. Love Green. I like Mixon too. Jeremy Hill was injured in pregame warm-ups. Maybe could be. Maybe that was an excuse not to give him like his ceremonial first carry of the first and third quarters. Weird thing that they insisted on doing for 9 weeks. But yeah, I'll take the Bengals to win on the road, mainly because their defense, while it hasn't played, it didn't play as well last week. It has been undervalued, I think, on the season.
I'm going to be picking Tennessee at home. Guys, if you had told me at the beginning of the season that DeMarco Murray wasn't going to have a good year, then I would have said Derrick Henry is going to be killing it. But that's not true either. They both have been not good, which is just a complete shock to me because they were so effective running the ball last year, and they are so inefficient running the ball this year. And they put a lot more on Marcus Mariota, and he hasn't stepped up. Somewhat due to injuring his hamstring. But as he gets healthier, I think he can start to play better. I think this is going to be an ugly game. You're going to be starting AJ Green, Tyler Kroft potentially, who's put together 4 or 5 point games as a decent tight end fill-in if you need him. On the Titans side, DeMarco Murray has a knee injury, and it seems like every week he's dealing with shoulder, hamstring, knee. I don't know how you can bench him if he's active. I think you have to play him just because there's not a lot of good running backs out there. But you don't really want to start anyone in this game if you can avoid it. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Whoever scores last is probably going to win. But since the Titans are at home, I'll go ahead and pick them.
Yeah,
Next
I feel like the DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry thing is kind of like Vernon Davis, Jordan Reed. You almost hope DeMarco Murray's inactive. So if you're
So you can play one with
if you own both, you can throw Henry in there.
Exactly. Next game we got up is the Houston Texans at the St. Louis Rams. I'll just go ahead and say I'm picking the Rams at home. The Texans,
the St. Louis Rams or the Los Angeles
the Los Angeles Rams. I'd pick them even if they were in St. Louis, though. The Los Angeles Rams, they have the top offense this year. They've looked very good. You're going to be starting everyone against this very exploitable Texans defense now that so many people in the Texans defense have gotten hurt. Like almost everyone on the Rams side. If you have Goff, I think he's a great play this week. Gurley has been phenomenal. I like Sammy Watkins even a lot this week. On the Texans side, DeAndre Hopkins, even without his quarterback, he's still putting up points. He's still catching touchdowns. Tom Savage is not good, but I think he's going to keep on passing DeAndre Hopkins so much that he's going to be relevant, especially in PPR leagues, and still be a top 10 guy. So you're starting him every week, no question. Will Fuller's value has gone pretty significantly down with the loss of Deshaun Watson, as has Lamar Miller's. I think there's still decent plays this week, though, especially Lamar Miller. I think he'll put in low-end RB2 value, maybe middle to high-end if they can keep it a little bit close at the beginning of the game. But I like the Rams to win, and by the end of the game, win pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I agree with that, Schroeder. Pretty much everything you said. The only thing I would add is, the Rams' defense in fantasy has been pretty good this season, shockingly. While they haven't been as good necessarily in real defense, but you can start them this week. It's not a bad streaming option if you're kind of down this week on defenses. Up against Tom Savage, could be some turnovers there. There's some play there, but I'm going with the Rams on this one. The Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I like the call, Rob. I think the Tom Savage is definitely going to hold the ball long enough to give up some sacks to that Rams defensive front, and we saw the Texans get flamed last week by T.Y. Hilton for some long touchdowns. That's a possibility for Sammy Watkins again here. A guy I've been championing all year. But yeah, I agree. I think the Rams roll here. Too much firepower. Who knew?
The LA Rams just have too many weapons. Next game we got is probably the last decent game of the day. Dallas Cowboys, off a big win against the Kansas City Chiefs, face the Atlanta Falcons, who are mediocre. Joe, who do you like here?
Well, not the team that's mediocre, I would say. I'll go with the Cowboys, with or without Zeke Elliott. I think they're playing too well right now. The offensive line is playing too well right now. Dak Prescott, the guy's great. He's really stepped it up in his second year. Hasn't had a sophomore slump at all. Dez Bryant's a little bit banged up, but it sounds like he's going to be okay to play in this game. And honestly, that that Dallas pass rush has been pretty good over the last few weeks as they've gotten their guys healthy. And that's certainly not something that we've seen from them in recent years, but it's kind of coming rounding into form for them. And Atlanta, they've just been dysfunctional. Is it Steve Sarkisian? It's someone Sarkisian.
Yep, Steve Sarkisian.
Who their new offensive coordinator has been erratic with the play calling. You never really know what's coming. And I said it earlier in the show, their offense does have value, but you don't know which running back is going to get the scoring opportunities week to week. I do still lean Freeman. I think he's in a decent spot here to have a good game. And you're obviously starting him and Coleman at this point because you drafted him to be starters. And Julio Jones isn't going to drop wide open touchdowns most weeks. So I think he's a great play here. But I'll take the Cowboys to win on the road. They're just a better team to me.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I'm going with the Cowboys as well. And if Zeke is suspended, I really like Alfred Morris. Even though he hasn't had a lot of touches this season, behind that line, every time he gets it, he's had some nice runs. So I still like Alfred Morris if Zeke does get suspended. Obviously, I love Zeke if he's playing. And I think the one thing we can predict about the Falcons, Joe, is that they are inconsistent. And I'm going to go with the much more, as of late, consistent Dallas Cowboys in this one.
Well, my pick is actually going to depend on if Zeke is suspended. If he is not, I'm picking the Cowboys. If he is, I'm actually going to be picking the Falcons. This is a game that hopefully will be high scoring. Hopefully it will lead to a lot of fantasy goodness. You're going to be starting Julio. You're going to be starting Devontae Freeman, obviously. I think Matt Ryan's even a decent startable this week. Cowboys side, Dak Prescott has been fantastic this year. You're definitely starting him. If Zeke's active, he's going to be the number one running back. And we'll see if Dez is back from injury. I expect him to play, so I like him this game too. Guys, before I move on to the next game, I just want to bring up some of the quarterbacks that got drafted last year. I mean, we have Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, Dak Prescott. Those are four guys. I mean, in Jacoby Brissett's case, it looks like he could be a solid backup. Who knows if he's actually going to be a starter long-term in the NFL. But those are four quarterbacks that look to have at least hit a little bit. Just for future, how would you rank those guys moving forward?
Yikes. That's a tough one. I definitely like Wentz and Dak probably the most. I'm really not going to favor one or the other. I both like what they've done, especially the jump Wentz has made. But Dak's made a nice jump this year as well. With overall the Cowboys not playing as well, but I think a lot more is being put on his shoulders. And Goff would obviously be next, and then Brissett. Fun fact, Brissett, I'm pretty sure he's top 15 quarterback in fantasy football. Shocking. He's had a couple big weeks, but I would have thought once he was starting, I was like, well, he's not going to have any value, but I was wrong there. He's put up some nice numbers, but that's my order.
Yeah, there's been a lot more fantasy value there than I think we could have foreseen. Mm-hmm. I would rank him Wentz slightly ahead of Prescott, then Goff, and then Brissett is a very distant fourth, because I don't think he's going to be a long time starter in the NFL. But I agree with you, Schroeder. He could be a very decent backup quarterback. He's obviously had this has been a good experience for him to get some starting reps with the Colts.
Yeah, he's definitely shown me more than Paxton Lynch, who was a first-round pick, has shown me. So at least he has that going for him. All right, next game, Rob. I'm sorry to do this to you, but you get the incredibly exciting New York Giants at the San Francisco 49ers.
Do I have to do this one? I feel like...
Yes, you do.
I'm going to go with the 49ers because they're at home. And that's my analysis. No, I'll give you some fantasy advice here. I think you're starting high. Outside of that, from San Francisco, I'm not really sure if I would go anywhere with that. And you're starting Evan Ingram. If you have any Giants, he's the guy to start. Eli Manning is a streaming option, but I really just don't want to have much to do with either of these two teams. So I'm going to go with the home team, 49ers, for the win. Yeah, anything to add to that exciting game, Joe?
Well, it's week 10, and we have a game where there's a combined single win between two teams. Not good at all. But I agree with you. Hyde and Ingram are the top plays here. I think Orleans Dark was a decent guy to throw in because you can run on San Francisco. He might be a bit of a sneaky play if you have some bye week trouble, but I'll agree. I'll take the 49ers to win their first game at home against the hapless Giants.
I'll pick at 49ers too, and you guys covered it in terms of fantasy. There's really not that much here. Next game we got is the Patriots at New England Broncos. At the Denver Broncos, I should say, on Sunday Night Football. I'm picking the Patriots to win. The Broncos just have not looked good. On the Broncos side, I actually do like Demaryius Thomas a little bit for this game offensively. On the Patriots side, you're definitely still starting Brady. I think you have to start Brandon Cooks, even though I think you should temper your expectations on him this week. I love Gronk in this matchup. But all the rest of the Patriots, you again have to temper your expectations just because Broncos still do have a good defense, even though they didn't really show it that much against the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm picking the Patriots to win this one just because I'm not sure the Broncos offense is going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have any chance to keep up. And I agree, temper your expectations. You're starting Brady and definitely Gronk. After that, the running back situation, you don't really know what's going on there. And yeah, I think they're just going to whittle away after, Adam. There might be some red zone stops, Gostkowski, some good value there. But yeah, I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win easily. There's going to be some scoring from Denver, but not much. They just don't seem to have it figured out whatsoever, even against a weaker defense this week. But yeah, Patriots, you said it.
Joe, but before you jump in, I think I need to do my official. The way you beat the Denver Broncos is with the tight end. So Rob Gronkowski is a great pick this week. Sorry. Okay, now you can go.
I was wondering if you were going to say that.
That is true. And as the best tight end in the NFL, he's an exceptionally great play this week. But I would have to agree. I think New England rolls here. Denver is just too inept on offense. I'm wondering if these teams are going to go back and forth and see which one can play the most running backs because they both seem to like to play 4 different guys and give them all work. But, yeah, Brandon Cooks, the Broncos have been a little bit vulnerable to those speedy outside guys. We saw Travis Benjamin torch him a few times. So there's some upside there, but obviously there's huge downside too. We'll see if Hogan plays at all in this game. And I like your Demaryius Thomas call, Schroeder. Osweiler was locked onto him last game, targeted him a crap ton. So I think we're going to see that some more.
Those are the terms we use in fantasy football. Crap ton.
I want to see that in the box score one day when I go to pull it
How
up.
many targets? A crap ton of them. No, can you give me the number? Crap ton. All right, last game we got is the Miami Dolphins against the Carolina Panthers on Monday Night Football. Joe, break down this game for us.
Well, Jay Cutler, he's great now, right?
No.
300 yards and 3 touchdowns last week.
Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders.
I would have to agree. The Panthers' defense is much more solid than the Oakland Raiders, and I don't think Jay Cutler is going to be able to do much against this against the swarming Panthers defense. And for the Miami backfield, I don't really know that we have a clear lead back yet. Kenyon Drake was probably the more effective in limited touches, but Damian Williams got the receiving work and obviously scored a touchdown. So I think it's going to be a pretty even split there, and probably not a ton of value this week. You're obviously playing Devontae Parker and Jarvis Landry every week. They both have a chance at some success. And for the Panthers, Devin Funchess is an obvious start. Cam, obviously. We saw Christian McCaffrey get some more carries last week. I'll be interested to see if that's more because of Jonathan Stewart's fumbles or because they actually want to run Christian McCaffrey more between the tackles, which I think that might be the case. And he's obviously getting targeted a ton, so he's a great play in PPR and DFS. I like the Panthers to win pretty handily at home.
Agree. And I do like that they used McCaffrey more. They drafted him, 8th overall. You got to use him more. And I like your Panthers. I like a lot of those, the skilled players there. Jay Cutler, he looked really good, but it was Oakland. I would temper my expectations big on that. Now playing a real defense. And yeah, you said it. You know, you like Parker, you like Landry, but this is a tough defense. Panthers are going to roll in this one. I think they win handily.
Well, guys, I'm picking the Panthers too. I don't think they're actually going to win handily here. But in terms of fantasy, I think Cam Newton's definitely a viable play this week. Christian McCaffrey is getting more work, which puts him a lot more on the fantasy radar. If he continues to get 10 to 15 carries plus his passing down work, he could actually be a very good fantasy player. On the Dolphins side, their guys, a lot of their guys, hit the 6 to 10 point range last week. So you look at Kenyon Drake, I think he's a decent play if you absolutely need a running back. Damian Williams is catching the ball relatively well, but he's just not that talented as a running back. If they get behind, I'd probably prefer Damian Williams. If it's a tight game, I prefer Kenyon Drake. I think it's going to be a tight game. I do like Devontae Parker. I'm not sure if you guys watched this game, but Devontae Parker, he caught some passes early, then completely disappeared, and then he does what he always does in trash time. He starts to dominate again. He had an amazing catch down close to the out of bounds. They originally called no catch, but then after review, it was actual catch. I think this guy is too talented. He's just going to bust up one game. I like him in this game a lot, and I think Landry is a decent play as well. But I think it's going to be the Panthers in a relatively tight game. All right, guys. Any further thoughts before we sign off for this episode?
It's kind of a crappy week. Hopefully, you guys enjoy watching football, and maybe we'll be surprised with some good games here.
Better games are ahead. Better games are ahead. And we're almost out of bye weeks, so that's nice. And we're starting to get close to the fantasy football championships and the playoffs, so hopefully you guys are close too. But I guess we'll call it here. Guys, thanks so much for listening. If you can go ahead, please like below and subscribe to our channel. You can also message us at ffanonymous3 at gmail.com if you want to send in your emails, or send out a tweet to us at ffanonymous3 either. For me, Joe, Rob, thanks for listening, and remember, stay addicted.